Hi everyone. Okay, so this is the MAAP test. This is the practice test. MAAP stands for Mississippi Academic Assessment Program. All right, this is what your ELA test will actually look like. All right, it gives you one sample reading test and one sample writing test. And you can go into this just to look at what things are like. You can go into it just to practice using the tools that they give you, which I highly recommend. You can go into this to actually answer some of the questions or practice your T-charts, or it's really up to you what you want to use these for. So I put the link for this in the document about the extra chunky peanut butter. It's also on Google Classroom and a bunch of other places. So once you get onto the site, it will look like this. It will ask you to select a test. You'll, of course, choose ELA. About math, I would talk to Ms. Hogan to see if that's something that would be helpful for you for Tuesday. Remember, your math test is now on Tuesday and your writing test is on Friday, but your multiple choice reading test remains on Monday. So again, select ELA. Of course, you are going to choose grade 6, okay? But so that I don't give away answers for anybody that might want to look at these tests on their own, I'm going to do 8th grade. And this is literally my first time looking at these tests. So this is what I would do if I were seeing these tests for the first time. So select test. You will choose practice session 1 for reading multiple choice. Now, if you do practice this on your own, there's an answer key right here. Okay, and if you practice the writing test, which is practice session 2, there's a rubric here. So, but for this video, we're going to do practice session 1, which is reading and multiple choice. So start test, click through all that. You're going to first start with some directions, okay? It will show you, and I'll go over everything, or as much of this as I can. Go through, make sure you read these so that you remember what so they reinforce what I talk about. So once you've read them, click on Start Test. And there you go. So, okay, we have text on the passage on the left, questions on the right. You've seen this sort of setup before. Down here on the lower left, you have zoom to make it bigger or smaller. You have bookmark. If you wanted to bookmark a certain page, which means that you put as if you were, put a bookmark in it. It's probably been a long time since you've read actual books, but when you want to save your spot, you put an actual thing in the book so that you can come back to it, or you fold the corner of the page. This is the same thing here. Note will create a note just for that specific page. Highlighter is a highlighter. It's a yellow highlighter, and you only have yellow. And this will actually be very important for the writing test. You have your answer eliminator. So if you're great at the process of elimination, which I hope you are, you should be at this point, especially after all the quizzes assignments, you can use these. You can click on the letters to X them out, okay? And the line reader lets you focus on one line at a time. I highly recommend this. So in my what to expect video, I said that this the testing process should be active, right? You shouldn't be passive. You shouldn't let it just happen to you. So doing things like moving this with your finger, okay, it's gonna keep your mind and your brain engaged and working. All right. I know all too well how I could, I've had situations in school where I would read a paragraph literally 10, 15, 20 times, and I'd have no idea what was going on. And that's because I wasn't focused. So things like this will hopefully keep you focused. Using things like highlighters, using the notes and the bookmarks will keep you focused. Okay, review in the upper left-hand corner, but the review button is very important. We'll go over that in a little bit. The directions, if you need them again, are in the upper right-hand corner, and pause is on the upper right-hand corner /sign out. Also in the upper right-hand corner are the next arrows, which goes to the next page of questions. Okay. It says question 1 of 50, right? Do you remember how many minutes you have for the reading test? You have 2 hours and 18 minutes. Now that seems like a lot of time, but these are not quizzes questions, y'all. You have to read a lot of text to answer a lot of questions. And they're tricky. These guys are tricky. These test creators are tricky because it's not 50 questions, it's 57, 58, because these guys are throwing in part A and part B questions. So, the last tool. The last tool is this divider thing. So if you want your text on the left to be wider, then you click on the right arrow. Okay? If you want your text on the right to be wider, then you click on the left arrow. Or if you just want to leave it in the middle, you do that. I prefer to have the text a little bit wider so it doesn't seem as long, but that's just me. It's a psychological thing. Okay, so bringing us back to the review button. So the first thing that I would do, so you already have your pieces of paper, right? You will hopefully have more than one. If not, I would ask for another one, at least have 2 with you. Okay, you'll be given at least two pencils, and at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of paper. Your paper might be lined. Your paper might not be lined. This is important if you don't have great handwriting. Okay, because if it's lined, then it's going to be to your advantage. If it's not lined, it might actually slow you down. So think about how you would react to these things. So what I would do right away for the multiple choice writing test is take my first piece of paper and fold it into 4. And remember, you are watching this because you are interested and curious about this extra chunky previewing peanut butter horror movie thing that I've been talking about, right? So what I'm doing is previewing, all right? And also, you only use this if you can practice this 2 or 3 times and decide that it's helpful for you. If it's not helpful for you, if it's going to take you more than 5 minutes to preview the test, then don't do it. Okay, you're going to have to actually memorize the tip, and you're actually going to have to practice it to see if it works for you. So, but give it a try. Okay, previewing is important no matter what you do, I think. So I go into review. Okay, I see that it actually says 0 out of 57 questions. So even though this thingy in the middle says question 1 of 50, the review shows that there are actually 57 minutes. So remember, 2 hours and 18 minutes, now 57 questions, because you've got these 2 A's, 2 B's, 11 A's, 11 B's. Okay, so what I do is once I've seen how many questions there actually are, I start chunking. So remember, I fold it into 4. So the first one is I just put C1, or I write chunk 1 at the top. C1, okay? And I'm just previewing it right now, and it looks like this is a little tricky. It seems like it's nonfiction. So I'm just going to keep it between fiction versus nonfiction. Remember, fiction is made up. It's a story. Nonfiction is not made up. It's based on personal experiences or facts or opinions. Okay, so now I put C1 nonfiction. And then I go to this arrow on the right, and I click forward until I get to the next to the next passage. Okay, so here it goes to Jungle Book, right? So I'll go to the last question of chunk. So this is the first page of the next chunk. So here I will bookmark. And then I'm going to turn my folded paper and put chunk 2. C2, excerpt from the Jungle Book. So excerpt usually is an excerpt is usually a smaller piece of something bigger. It's usually fiction. The Jungle Book, if you're familiar, is a fictional. It's a story. So if you don't know that, you'll have to look at the first sentence or two, or the last sentence. Looking for central ideas. Just look at the style. Is it informational? All right. If it's informational, if it's giving information, then it's probably nonfiction. Okay. But if it starts with tiger, tiger, and there's quotation marks, then that's probably fiction. That's a story. So, okay, chunk 2 is fiction. I've written chunk 2. Chunk 2, fiction. Click forward again. When does the Jungle Book stop? Again, this should only take 5 minutes. You have to practice it. It stops here. This is the first page. I click bookmark. Chunk 3. Nonfiction. All right. I just see that it said scientist. I see the word article. Also, look up here at the directions. It says you will read 2 passages. You will read a scratch tells all and hard facts. Okay. You will read both passages, and then you will answer questions about both. Okay. I am going forward again. Bookmark the next section for chunk 4. Looks informational, so it's going to be nonfiction. Right? Oh, this is tricky. This is tricky. This is chunk, let's call it chunk 5. So I'm going to have to flip my page, right? Now, if the folding the paper into 4 thing messes you up, fold it into half, or don't do it at all. I like to do this in 4s because I like to be in front of my screen like this. It's active. A lot of kids that I saw, the 7th graders and 8th graders, were like this. They were like down, and they were like just like falling asleep, right? This way you can hold it in your hand, you can have your pencil with you, and you're staying actively engaged. Okay, so this was, what is this? Chunk 5 now, right? Chunk 5, but it's really chunk 3 we're revisiting, but I'm counting it as chunk 5. Oh, I forgot to bookmark it. Okay, there it is. Okay, that was quick. So this is the next section. So I'm actually gonna put, chunk 5 was nonfiction. All right. So chunk 5 looked pretty short. So I'm gonna actually go down halfway through the paper, this little quarter of a piece of paper, and do chunk 6 here. And this looks like, well, no, you know what? Forget that. I'm gonna go to a different box entirely and put chunk 6. And this looks like fiction. Again, I'm using shorthand. FXN for me means fiction. All right, so I bookmarked it. That's great. Go forward. Again, only do this if you can do this in 5 minutes. And I swear to you, it will be really helpful. All right, this looks like a lot. Oh, goodness. All right, here's another one. Chunk 7. I'm looking to see, is it fiction, nonfiction? It looks like, well, usually if something has pictures in it, usually on tests, it's informational. So I'm going to guess that it's nonfiction. It's kind of hard to tell a little bit. It sounds a little bit like a story in the beginning, but I did preview it and go down. I saw the picture, so I'm going to guess nonfiction. Oh, did it bookmark it? Yes. Okay, good. goodness. And that's it. Okay, good. So all in all, 7 chunks, right? 57 questions. So now I go back to chunk 1, right? Again, let me reiterate this. Do this, practice 2 or 3 times until it's easy to do in 5 minutes or less. Okay, so here I have chunk 1, nonfiction. I write down, oh, the reason I'm telling you to do it this way is because the teacher or the proctor is going to tell you to write your answers down on a piece of paper just in case that we lose power or something because of a storm. And it's happened before. So you have to write your answers on a piece of paper, and if you're going to do that, you might as well do it smart. So now I'm doing chunk 1. 1, 2A, 2B, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8A, 8B. There you go. That's chunk 1. Turn. So notice how there's a bookmark at the upper right-hand corner of number 9, box 9. That means that's the start of the next chunk, right? That's chunk 2. That's fiction. So 9, I'm writing it down, 10, 11A, 11B, 12, 13, 14, oh geez, 15, 16, 17A, 17B, oh Lord, 18A, 18B, 19. Okay, not bad. I thought it was going to be more than that. All right, next chunk is number 20. That's chunk 3. That's nonfiction. 20, 21A, 21B, 22, 23, 24A, 24B. Again, remember, if you have line paper, it will be to your advantage. I would consider, the situation if you don't have line paper. How good is your handwriting? Make sure you're keeping up with the chunks. So I just went up to 25. The next bookmark starts at 26. And remember, that was chunk 4, which is really short. 26, 27, 28. And then chunk 5, I have to go turn the page down. Let's see. Gotta practice this. Chunk 5, sorry, what number was the last one? Oh, goodness. It was 24, 28, okay, 28. 29 and 30, so it's only 2 questions. Okay, chunk 6. I think this is a really, nope, not a very long one. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Chunk 7. 41 to 50. 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Okay, there you go. Am I frozen? I think I froze. I don't know if you, well, my video froze. I'm gonna stop it. No, hopefully I'm still not frozen. Let's see what's going on. It says that I'm still recording. Hello? All right, hopefully that didn't freeze completely. I now have 7 chunks, okay? Now I close it out, and I look through my chunks, right? So I'm a big proponent, or I love you guys being able to choose things, okay? Make decisions, right? I don't want to teach you what to think. I want to teach you how to think. And again, it goes to the whole choose your character thing. What kind of character are you? Now, here's the trick. Are you realistically, you as a person, as a character, whatever, however you want to think about it, are you good at nonfiction? Are you better at fiction? Okay? Was there a poem that we just chunked? If I am not good at poems, then I'm not going to start with that poem. But if number 1, chunk 1, is nonfiction, and I'm better at fiction, then I will start at chunk 2, okay, which is fiction. And the other thing that you have to consider is which of these chunks have a lot more questions than the other ones, and which of these chunks have more two-part questions than the other ones. Because two-part questions are very tricky, right? They're tricky and they're dangerous because you have to get the first part A, correct to get part B correct, okay? So it could either be fine and you can get 2 points for it, or you would easily lose 2 points. So it's something to consider, right? So chunk 2, for example, it has a lot of questions and 3 sets of those questions, which means 6 of those questions are two-part questions. So do I want to be smart and go for that first because I'm better at fiction and it's also got the most two-part questions? Or do I want to start with one of the later chunks that have less, right? It's all about choice, right? But the key thing is 2 hours and 18 minutes. You've got to practice this so that you get this chunking thing, this preview chunky thing down quick, 5 minutes or less. And when you're making choices also, as to where to start, just choose and go. Don't waste time. Just make that decision and stick with it. I know it's a lot. I know it seems a lot, but I can do this. I can go into the 7th grade test right now and chunk it and preview it in 5 minutes or less. Okay, let me talk about the tools that you have. This is another thing. The 7th and 8th graders, I saw one 8th grader highlight, and he basically did this. All right. So is there really any point of highlighting if you just highlight everything? No. So if you have been paying attention to me and my videos or my class lessons where I talk about breaking apart those or deconstructing those T-charts, I'm very conservative when it comes to highlighting. I just highlight the absolute minimum that I need to, okay? But when you use it right, highlighting can be a very powerful tool, okay? Answer eliminator, you already know what that is. And note, it is, if you click on that. So remember, I would recommend only using bookmarks for the first page of every chunk. If you want to quote unquote bookmark other pages, I would use a note. So click the note and put something about this is a difficult passage. I'm not sure if it is argumentative or informational. Okay, so and you would exit out to get it out of your face, and when you go to review, you will see that box 44 or page 44 has a note sign on it. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So all these boxes right now are yellow or orange, whatever this color is. They're all unanswered, right? So as you're going through it, if you are not going to start traditionally at number 1, right? Remember, don't let this test just happen to you. Just choose what you decide to do with it. If you want to start at number 1, then start at number 1 and own it. But if you're not going to, then that's fine too. But if you do it non-traditionally, make sure that you go back to this review section and you look at your unanswered ones, and you make sure that everything is answered. So if I click on answered, nothing is answered right now, but you still see the bookmarks, right, which is the beginning of each chunk, and there's the note in 44. If you click on bookmarked, then there's the first page of every chunk, and if you click on notes, it just highlights the ones that have notes. Of course, look through everything before you submit. Actually, yes, you should know by now that you have to look everything when you think you're done. Now, when you think you're done, you will raise your hand, and the proctor will come over and will tell you to check again. So just checking twice doesn't hurt. Okay, and hopefully you'll have practiced this a couple times so that you should be done pretty quickly. If you're doing this smartly, all right, you should be done ahead of time, and you should get a lot of questions correct because you've had your chunky peanut butter, you previewed the horror, and the T-chart you will use, or the iced tea trick, memory trick you'll use for the writing test. All right, that was a lot of blabber. There was a whole section in the middle that was frozen, so hopefully I wasn't frozen and I won't have to record this whole thing again. But if you have questions, let me know.